O političkoj situaciji u Srbiji, o zasedanju Evropskog parlamenta prošle nedelje i sastanku sa studentima razgovaram sa generalnim sekretarom Evropskih demokrata i europoslanikom Sandrom Gozijem. Mr. Gozi, thank you very much for speaking to N1.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Last time we spoke, that was 10 days ago in Strasbourg. There are some developments. We heard the report from Moscow allegedly saying that there is a Maidan planned on the anniversary of the fall of Canopy on November the 1st. How do you see this? It's an interesting moment to publish a report like this.
Yeah, from Moscow with law, would have said Sean Connery interpreting James Bond. The Russians are master of disinformation in this moment. And in Serbia there is a very dangerous strategy of escalation. And I think that some people around the government and around the majority have an interest in nurturing, pushing for an escalation, which is very dangerous because escalation can bring some violent action. In my view, it is clear that it is a manipulation, and it is clear that they just want to set the scene in order to better repress the protest. And the protest is a scheme that we have seen in other countries. It's very typical of Russia. I'm very surprised that Serbia must depend on strange report from Russia to handle the democratic processes in this country.
Mm-hmm. And the government is also using this report to push this kind of narrative that this is a colored revolution, but at the same time they are saying that Serbia is on European path of European integrations, and that only President Vučić can take Serbia to European Union.
I think that with this declaration the government is playing with fire, because it takes very little at the moment in this country to ignite further tensions. And it is clear that President Vučić is very ambiguous on his strategy. On one side he presents himself and the only man that can bring Serbia within the European Union. At the same time is drifting away from his commitment as president of a candidate countries, clearly on freedom of expression, academic freedom, media freedom, but also going to Moscow or to Beijing. I mean, in a moment where Russia is not an ordinary country, in a moment where Russia is the country who has aggressed another European country, Ukraine. Serbia is a member of the Council of Europe. And Vučić goes to see to the parade of Vladimir Putin in Moscow and then go to Beijing. This is clearly a violation of the commitment of Serbia to align to the common foreign security policy of the European Union, and it is a free choice. It's Serbia that freely, I'm very happy that Serbia chose freely to become a candidate of the European Union and is choosing freely to pursue the negotiation. But this must bring some consistency. It must go with some consistency. Yeah. And this consistency, I don't see this consistency.
We haven't seen it for the last 4 years.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, I think that this is something which is very serious. And if President Vučić thinks that following the example of Orban, of Robert Fico, and going to China, because also Robert Fico and the foreign minister from Hungary was there, I can tell that is seriously wrong, because certainly that's not the European path that we hope a candidate country should follow.
And is it the European path for a country that should follow when we see members of the ruling party saying some of the students, naming one of them, could be killed, so it could be presented like an attack to students to provoke more protests, like how did you see that?
It's appalling. Mm-hmm. It's really appalling what happened. In a normal country, the president and the leader of the party have immediately requested to resign to this gentleman, and all the political forces would have asked him to resign, because to make such a statement, to put at risk with words the life of a young student, to nurture again violence and tension, because violence of words can turn into violence of action, is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm amazed that this representative is still in SNS as a party, and I think that if they do not sanction him, that means that they share his words, and that would be even more serious.
Mm-hmm. And there is another case of a protester who is in custody. He was taken to his father's funeral, but in chains, and we all saw those photos. I guess you saw them as well. How do you see that?
I think it is a useless humiliation. Mm-hmm. I can't understand why, in a situation which is so critical, instead of appease, instead of trying to ease tensions, instead of seizing the opportunities, such as a funeral of a father or someone who is detained, to send some reassuring message, some peaceful messages, they need to humiliate and provoke like that. But I think that this is also part of a strategy of escalation and of provocation. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is very dangerous. And I think that the Serbian citizens must be very shrewd in reacting, because it is clear that from the human point of view, the first reaction is, to react fiercely, to react strongly. But I think that I hope that Serbian civil society and the students do not fall in the trap, because it is a trap which is prepared for them, to push some of them to become violent, to push some of them to violate the law in order to better repress the movement. And I hope really it is a trap. I hope that they don't fall it, but I understand the sense of injustice that is felt by that student and in general by the Serbian citizens at the moment.
Mm-hmm. It seems that more and more European politicians see what is happening in Serbia. Even Manfred Weber said last week that he is not blind to the events in Serbia. Were you surprised by what he said in Strasbourg and the talks that EPP will have about membership of SNS in their group?
We have managed to raise the awareness in the European Parliament. I say we because we were the first to really be very vocal. As European Democrats, we were the first to be very vocal on what is happening in Serbia in this moment. And I can say with some satisfaction, even if we are at the very beginning, that it's thanks to our action that our group, Renew Europe, took the lead in the European Parliament, for example, in proposing the student as a candidate to the Sakharov Prize of the European Parliament. Sakharov Prize is a prize that is given for those who fight for freedom and democracy every year. And our official proposal as parliamentary group in Europe is to give the Sakharov Prize to the student. I'm very satisfied on this. And I'm very satisfied because our political action, our support to the student, our support to civil society, our support to free media in Serbia has pushed also Manfred Weber finally to say something about the presence of SNS and President Vučić in the European People's Party. Finally, the European People's Party realizes that there is some problem, and finally they decided to open inquiry. I don't know what they will do. I hope that we'll pursue the inquiry till the end. To me, it is obvious that they should suspend the SNS for EPP, but it's not my party, so I cannot interfere in the decision of the European People's Party. If something happens to a party member of my party, I certainly would ask immediately for suspension, but I hope that the European People's Party will continue to cooperate. After all, in the last plenary of the European Parliament, the discussion on Serbia was a very good discussion. Finally, real facts were brought to the attention of the members of the European Parliament and of the European public. I think that the speech of Commissioner Marta Kos was very clear and very helpful for the goal that we want to reach. We don't want to nurture tension. We don't want to contribute to escalation. We want to bring all the parties to comply by the rules, to comply by the democratic principle, to comply for rule of law, to renounce to violence, and to prepare the condition also for a truly fair election when the election will be called in Serbia. And I think that the discussion finally and the statement for the European Commission finally was very good, very helpful, and we are committed to continue to discuss about Serbia. We are committed to continue to keep the light on what is happening in Serbia. it is not easy with the media because, you know, there is a war in Ukraine, there are dreadful events in Gaza, there is Donald Trump, which makes news every day. So it is true that in the European media, the attention on Serbia is not as high as it should be always, but we are very committed to accompany your democratic process.
You mentioned Marta Kos. We need to say that she's from your group. But we see a very good connections that SNS has with EPP. The same week we talked in Strasbourg. Speaker of the Parliament, Ana Brnabić, former Prime Minister, she went to Brussels to speak to Roberta Metsola. She spoke about this issue with SNS again. So how do you see those connections they have with the high-ranking officials of the EPP, such as Roberta Metsola? We also didn't hear anything about Serbia from Ursula von der Leyen. We rarely hear any critics from her. How do you see their stand on Serbia and not reacting on the issues?
First of all, I want to say that European People's Party is not the European Union. European People's Party is a part of the European Union. Certainly, the President of the European Parliament by mandate, she must speak to the president of your parliament. So the fact that Ana Brnabić was in Brussels to meet Roberta Metsola is pretty ordinary, it's pretty normal, because they have two institutional roles. They are the president, respectively, of our European Parliament and of your Serbian Parliament. But the message that now the institutions are starting to give, starting with the Parliament and the Commission, to your representatives, very clear. And even Marta Kos in the plenary say clearly, and in the statement says clearly, that insult the EU institutions and insult political parties like the Greens, who were insulted by President Vučić, by President Ana Brnabić, is certainly not helpful for the president, for the government. So I think that we are finally putting the issue of Serbia on the right track, but we are at the very beginning, and we have to keep pressure, because if we turn our eyes away of Serbia, the situation here would become much more difficult. So we must really be very present and follow your debate, not because we want to interfere, but because you are European, because Serbian citizens are European citizens, because Serbian citizens deserve better, deserve more, and they deserve to become full members of the European Union. But in this way, in the way in which President Vučić and the government is handling the democratic process is not the right way to become a member of the European Union.
You also mentioned elections. President Vučić spoke about the elections, and he, for the moment, for the time being, he's denying snap elections. He's mentioning fall or winter 2026. But if the situation continues to be like this, can you see Serbia going on like this for another year?
Well, I mean, the calling for the election is a prerogative of your president, as it is a prerogative of the French president. So, I mean, on that, your constitution allows him to decide to set the date. But there is something else on which I want to insist, and on which also the European Commission is insisting at this moment. The next election must be fair elections. I understand, and I say the same yesterday when I met some representative of the student, when I met some representative of Serbian civil society. I understand their will of having as soon as possible election, but they would be useless if they are not fair. So we have, for example, you have to reform the way you register your voters, because you have to ensure fairness through a transparent voters registration. It is important that this board on the council, this council of the authority which oversees on electronic media is composed, because these are all instruments that ensure that the elections are fair. We must ensure that there is a very, very strong supervision by the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and by the European Parliament on the next election. So I think that we have to use this time from here, from today, to the day when the election will be called, to put down all the conditions to ensure that the elections are really fair and free.
And you also mentioned students, meeting with them yesterday. You spoke with some of them in an event organized by European Movement here in Serbia. Did they pass you their messages, and what was your message to them?
Well, I mean, first of all, yes, it was a very good event, very crowded, many people attended, and I want to thank the European Movement for Serbia for taking this initiative. And I mean, their message is a message of hope, of determination. Hope that, I mean, they finally can see democracy fully respected. Determination in the fact that they want to continue the protest because it is a battle for democracy, a battle for fundamental freedoms, a battle for freedom of expression. And I also see that they are aware that violence is not a solution. There has been violence. I mean, the police has reacted in a totally disproportionate way. There have been, according to the information that also you gave, a violent element close to SNS which have participated in some violent action. There have been some answer from some member of the student movement. Well, I mean, they know that violence is not the way, but they also know that resilience and determination is the way. So I'm really determined as European Democrat, as European Europe, to accompany them, especially until the 1st of November, when there will be, I mean, the anniversary of what happened in Novi Sad. It's going to be a very important moment, and really we need to ensure that nobody give in seed to provocation, because there will be provocation, and we have to preserve the integrity of the student movement. We must help them. They are free. They are fully free. They chose their way, but we need to accompany to ensure that the conditions are all there to respect their democratic protest.
Mr. Gozi, thank you very much for speaking to N1.
Thank you.